air pressure, as we said before, is basically how much air molecules are pushing down on something. But as you go up in altitude, the amount of air decreases, right? We talked about this when we did the layers of the atmosphere. As you go up, the amount of air decreases. As you go down, the amount of air increases, right? So it's very dependent on where you are with altitude. So have you ever heard of elevation sickness? This is not something we worry about here in Florida, but let me tell you, it is a real thing. I have experienced it a couple times. I think I would have learned it one, but no. So elevation sickness, well, you're going up in altitude, which means there's not as much air. So you find it hard to breathe, right? And it kind of starts with that, and then you do get actually sick. Yeah. So after I got the first sickness, I've learned to look for the signs again. Like I said, it doesn't happen here in Florida. I went to New Mexico for 3 weeks and I lived at 8,000 feet. So that was quite a jump for me from 0 to 8,000. And I got a pretty severe case of altitude sickness. The only way to combat it, if you ever get it, is water. Like, you ever drink so much water that you think if someone pokes you with a needle, you're literally gonna pop, right? That's what you feel like. You see, you gotta drink so much water so that you feel like that, and then drink another couple liters. Then you should be okay. Like, seriously, that's the only way to do it. But there's also medications you can take, but I didn't know about that, so just drink so much water. And there's no air. Now, this is my old shirt, I don't have it anymore, but it says got oxygen. I bought this at the top of Pikes Peak, and it has the elevation there, 14,000 feet high, 14,110 feet high. So you don't have any oxygen. Like at the top of the Pikes Peak, and I highly suggest you go up it if you ever go up if you ever go to Colorado and you're in the Denver, Colorado Springs area, definitely go up Pikes Peak. Because at the top of Pikes Peak, and they have a store there, and you can get stupid things like the shirt, but you could also get little cans of oxygen. They just sell like little cans and it says oxygen on it. It's stupid. But you can also get fresh donuts, like right off of the oil, with the cinnamon sugar, and it's like, man, I just drove all the way up here. I deserve a donut. Forget about the people that hike it. Yeah. I drove all the way up there. I deserve a donut. Anyway, reliving the donuts. But yeah, so this shirt actually says got oxygen, Pikes Peak elevation, right? And a funny story with this shirt. I was at FIU when I was a grad student, and my advisor came over here, and he was always talking to somebody, so he's like, hey, come on, I'm gonna go introduce you to the president of FIU. And I was like, and I was like, oh, okay. So, you see the secretary, whatever. I'm dressed like a bum. I've got this shirt on and jeans. Right? I'm like hairs in a ponytail. Like, I'm dressed like a bum. Not exactly ready to be the president of the university, but whatever. So, president comes out and says, oh, hey, Mike, my advisor's name, right? How are you? Blah, blah, blah. They start talking. And good conversation, and then at the end, he looks squarely at me and says, I do thank you. And you don't remember what shirt you put on, especially when you've just had this really cool conversation about computer modeling and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, huh? I'm sure it was the most dignified huh ever. And he goes, your shirt, I do thank you. And I look at my shirt and it's like got oxygen, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad you do, sir. What was you supposed to say? But trust me, elevation sickness, it's almost like a dehydration where your fingers start to puff up, and You start to feel a little bit dizzy, lightheaded, hard to catch your breath, and if you don't get it then you start puking, and it's just horrible. So don't get elevation sickness. If you do go somewhere that's not Florida, like if you do end up in Colorado, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water. When you think you're going to throw up because you've had so much water, drink more water. Now this is something that I kind of find interesting. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but water vapor affects air pressure. Water vapor reduces the density of air. So water makes air lighter. So cold, dry air has a higher pressure. Now where was the highest pressure recorded? Siberia and Montana. Okay, Siberia, cold, dry. Montana, cold and dry. Right? Warm, dry air has a higher pressure. Right? So Colorado, Arizona, etc. Warm, humid air has a lower pressure. Low pressure, warm, humid air. Gee, where would that happen? Low pressure, bad weather, more water content. Oh, fun. If you move the air, you can cause a change in the pressure. So, for instance, convergence. Just look at the bottom part here. Convergence, if you're converging onto something, then you're actually going to rise the pressure, right? If you have, for example, you have 5 classes, every class has a paper and a quiz, and usually they're all spread out on their due dates, but suddenly they're all due on the same day. What's going to happen? The pressure that you feel is going to rise. They're converging. Okay? Versus divergence, which is out here, where you can see the air going away. Well, if you have all of these things and then your quizzes are like, forget the quizzes. Well, your pressure would decrease, right? Because your things are going away. So divergence versus convergence. So even though there's a low here, it's filling up and it's raising your pressure. Versus a high here, it's spreading out and it's lowering your pressure.